Hi, I'm Glen Hiemstra, founder of Futurists.com. People wonder what specifically we can do for you. If you're looking for a keynote speech, a seminar, or a think tank on long-term future trends and how to prepare for the long-term future, if you're looking for some retreat facilitation in long-range planning and preferred future planning, then come to Futurists.com, find the contacts page, and you can use a form that's there or simply email or call us, and we can talk about what you're looking for and how we can provide that service. One of the questions that people have is how can we internalize or use this information about the future? I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One very simple discussion exercise that we often do in short-term kinds of sessions is, given how the world is changing and given how we do things around our organization, what will we be moving from and what will we be moving to? And that discussion, simple though it sounds, reveals lots of things to people. In fact, organizations are full of people who can say, we ought to be moving from this and to that. And a futuring session gives people an excuse to talk about those kinds of issues. A second thing that people do is to try to learn to stop thinking of strategic and long-range thinking as an interruption of work, but as actually what we do. When people do long-range planning events, they often think, well, boy, I'm glad that's over with, now we can get back to work. But in fact, it's the long-range planning ideas that become the core of the work. And the real trick is to try to get the routine work that you're doing every day to become the same thing as the more strategic work that you've identified at a long-range planning retreat. That's not easy to do, and it is part of the challenge. One of the questions that I'm often asked is, so how did you become a futurist? What's your background? Well, I came out of an academic career where I was teaching communication and I was teaching future studies, but nearly 2 decades ago I left that and became a full-time futurist. I was influenced into being a futurist by a mentor who had come out of the space program. When I knew him, he was a college president, but prior to that he had been director of program planning for building Apollo. His name was Ed Lindemann, and he was a real mentor right out of classic mentorship literature, and taught me a particular way of thinking about the future, a set of questions to ask like, what does the future probably hold, what is possible in the future, and most importantly, what is preferred in the future. In the couple of decades that I've been doing this full time, I've learned a lot from those who are trend analyzers. I've studied processes for creating preferred futures and for organizational long-range planning, and I've become a real expert in ways of creating the long-range future. As a futurist, I've been a professional member of the World Future Society for more than 2 decades, and I'm also on the steering committee of a tremendous annual conference called Future in Review, which happens in San Diego each May, also known as the FIRE Conference. One of the questions that people have is, do you have any unique kinds of planning models? My experience in 2 decades now of helping organizations do long-range planning is that we often make that process more complicated than it needs to be. And we've developed a very simple model. We call it the 3-cone preferred future planning model. It's framed around 3 questions regarding the future: what is probable, what is possible, and what is preferred. And having worked through those 3 questions, you identify strategies and you identify initial actions, which we've labeled the first wins or the first victories. And people really like this model because visually it captures what they're trying to do. Literally it says, all you need to know to have a strategic plan is, where are you today? Where do you want to go tomorrow, and what are you doing next to move in that direction? And if you can consistently answer those 3 questions, you have a plan. This is Glen Hiemstra for Futurists.com.